welcome back, everyone. Welcome to A Cup of Joe. I'm your host, Jolette Organista, and thank you for joining me for another week of a new episode in my podcast. I don't know why it's so hard for me to say podcast. Anyways, a little about this week. This week has been super busy. If those who are following me on Instagram have been have been checking out that I've been putting a lot of things to post on my story in regards to products that I'm trying to create for a website that I'm trying to not create but use, through Shopify, but like design and everything to kind of expand the small business that I'm doing. So it's been very busy, as well as many job interviews, and they suck because I feel like job interviews are just like dates. You just show up and they don't know anything about you, but you don't know anything about them, and you're just trying to convince them like you're the best person in the entire planet. And so job interviews, I just get super exhausted out of them, and I've had many of them because I'm trying to find a job because I don't have a job. And so it's just been a little hectic, just trying to get everything together and trying to be productive as much as possible, because that's just my personality. I just can't sit around and not do anything. I just have to be doing something, and so it's just been super busy. But I'm very thankful and grateful for all the opportunities that I've had for job opportunities and to become creative, and so that is something that I'm very happy about. Anyway, so that's a little bit about my week and how it's been, and just how that has led me to this podcast episode, the ability to choose. How every day we're making choices about our decisions and about life, right? Every day you wake up and the first thing you do is decide if you want to wake up or not, stay in your bed, or you get up and do your bed first. And it's just these little decisions, these little choices is what takes an account how you're feeling throughout the day, And we get to choose, how we feel. We get to choose what we want to do. We get to choose where we want to be. Everything is a choice. And sometimes we, at our age, mid-20s or even your 20s, early 20s, or even after, in your 30s, you're trying to navigate through all the emotions that you're feeling. You're trying to navigate everything that's going through your mind and in your heart. And those emotions can be super negative, and those emotions can be super positive. And sometimes you just don't know what to do with those emotions. And so every day we are choosing how we want the day to go by and how we want the day to end. And yet we choose the same emotions, we choose doubt, and we choose sadness, and then we choose heartbreak, and we choose despair, and then we choose disappointment because of what's happening around us. Honestly, because I don't have a job, I can choose to be super just frustrated about how I don't have a job and I don't have money, and I'm broke. Or I can choose to feel different feeling based on the circumstance that I'm feeling. And so that's what's been going through my head this week, of just the choices that I'm making and the choices that I want to make and the choices that I'm trying to avoid so I don't feel a certain way, And this morning, I was listening to not a podcast, but like a talk. I like to listen to talks, or because I'm a religious person, which I stated in the last podcast, and I like to listen to religious leaders talk about topics. And this leader, his name's Elder Tom Holland. Oh, yeah, it is Tom Holland. He was talking about kind of navigating through the disappointments in your life, and he says, so he's quoting someone else in his talk, but so this is what he says. I wrote it down because I couldn't remember. So yeah, so he quotes F. Scott Fitzgerald. I can't say it. Fitz, whatever. And he says something that really caught my attention in regards to making choices and what we choose. And he said, F. Scott once made that trouble has no necessary connection with discouragement. So I'm going to read that again. That trouble has no necessary connection with discouragement. Discouragement has a germ of its own, as different from trouble as arthritis is different from a stiff joint. And that really made me think, separating trouble and discouragement. A lot of us, we see it together, as trouble and discouragement is the exact same thing. If you're troubled, then automatically you should feel discouraged. If you're heartbroken, you should automatically feel sad, And so we, as humans, I think we've connected circumstances with emotions, when it's not like that. It's a circumstance that happens, and then we get to choose how we feel in regards to that circumstance. And so it really caught my attention of how I'm living my life, and when things happen, what am I choosing to feel in regards to the situation? And how are you kind of choosing, what emotion are you choosing based on the circumstance that's happening to you? And so again, going back, every day we are facing challenges financially, school, relationships, and just there's so many things that are being hit in our way. We're getting KO'd every day with things that are happening in our lives, but yet we get to choose how we feel, And again, most of these negative experiences that we have, we tend to connect it with a negative feeling. But then then from that negative feeling is what makes us feel the way that we feel the rest of the day. And so, honestly, we have the choice to feel happy when these troubled times come. We have the choice to be committed when I don't know, when things don't work out in our way, if it's school, if it's work, or if it's our passion with work, it's like you choose to give up or not, or you choose to be committed and to keep going. And most of us know great leaders, great people that have been successful in their business, in their passions, because they chose to be committed instead of choosing to give up. And many of us say man, that's just how I am, that's just who I am. But then we have the ability to choose to change. And some of us just don't want to, because we don't choose that. And so then we blame ourselves. Well, we blame people, we blame the experiences because of how we feel, and then most of all, we blame ourselves. We start to blame ourselves for the feelings that we're feeling because of the experiences that we've been experiencing, and then we just feel super discouraged and super sad. And this has just been going through my head throughout the whole, every day since I've been choosing to do something that's different than the day I usually choose, if that makes sense. So let me tell you a little experience. Let me tell you a little story. This story time. So going to kind of connect with what I'm saying to a story, I always go back to the story. I talked about this in my last podcast, something that happened around 2 years ago to me. But I like to use this as an example, not to really think about it because I can't let go, but I just like to not compare, but to compare myself where I was then and where I am now, and how I think then and then how I think now. And I've changed a lot the past 2 years. I mean, obviously I've changed in the last year. And okay, so going to the experience is 2 years ago. That was 2021. Wait, we're 23, 22, 21. Yeah, 2021. Just going back to the experience of my in the last podcast, the last podcast that I talked about me being super heartbroken. Yeah, no one's talking about breakups because they're just stupid. I mean, they're not. Anyways, I'm getting off track. So, the experience. I went through a rough breakup. Not that I like to talk about it all the time. I just think I like the lesson I learned from it, because it took me so long to learn the lesson that happened 2 years ago. And so basically, long story short, the relationship just didn't work out. It's fine. I mean, that's life. But I chose to put myself in this position to not let go, to be angry, to be mad, to be frustrated, to be sad. And so every day from the last 2 years, like when that happened, I was choosing to be sad every day, you know? And then I made justifications like I can be sad because this happened, which is true. I'm not saying that you should discard the feelings that you feel when troubles come, but you don't have to hold on to it so long, you know? Like during a breakup, of course you're gonna feel sad. It's inevitable. You're a human. You're going to feel those emotions. But it's what you're choosing to do after you do feel it and you do accept it and you do, come in regards like, hey, yeah, I feel really sad about it, but what am I gonna do about it, And so after a couple of months, like everyone's different when it comes to breakups. I'm now different than I was 2 years ago, but usually like I have the process, whatever, and I'm like sad, always sad. And after a while, it was already 6 months later, and I was still sad. And I was still super mad and angry and holding a grudge. And I would sit down with my friends. There was actually a moment I was sitting down with my friends at Chick-fil-A, and we're eating Chick-fil-A, and my two best friends. And I was just sitting there sad, just thinking like the most negative thoughts that you can think of after a breakup, like why wasn't I enough, or what did I do wrong, or I deserve to be sad because I didn't do my best, it's just all these negative thoughts that were going into me. And I was saying these to my friends. I was like, guys, I just will never find love again. I'm laughing because I just think like, man, what were you saying? Anyways, so it was just like, I'm so sad. And I remember my friends, I have two friends, like two best friends. I have one that's super compassionate. No, they're both compassionate, but I have one that tells me, that one best friend that tells you exactly what you need to hear. You don't want to hear it. And then you have the other one that's like more compassionate, and it's like, okay, yeah, I understand what you're feeling, but let's try to see a different perspective. So my best friend, who was really like direct with me, she's like, Gillette, you do not need to be sad anymore. You can feel so many other emotions, but you're choosing to be sad because you're choosing not to let go. So you are literally doing this to yourself. And I was like, no, it's because it's a breakup. I'm going through a breakup, and and my other best friend was just like, Gillette, it's kind of time. It's been 6 months, and I mean, I understand if it was like the first month, but you've had time to rethink, to acknowledge, to accept, but you're still choosing to not let go. And deep down, yes, it's very true. I held on for so long because I just wasn't convinced. I was just like in denial of like what was happening in the relationship, even though the relationship wasn't there anymore. And I was just thinking like this can't be the end. So I'm going to choose to be sad so then I can not forget. And there's this dumb quote that I don't believe it anymore, but it was just like, you choose to be sad because you would rather feel sad than to forget. And man, I think of myself back then. I'm like, dude, you suffered so much because you chose to do it. You chose to suffer. And I did that for a long time, for a lot of months, like almost like years. And it was so sad to think that I thought that was the only choice that I had was to be sad because I thought I deserved it, But no, I could have chose earlier in that period to be happy, to feel happier, and I didn't because I was convinced that I deserved to be sad because of the heartbreak, And so there was another quote that Eller Holland said, quoting Scott, and he says, in regards to like choosing, when we make the choice of feeling a negative emotion, he says, in fact it can become almost a habit, a way of living and thinking, and there the greatest damage is done. So I'm gonna repeat it again. So again, going back to my story, I blamed myself a lot, and I was choosing not to let go. I was choosing to be mad and angry. And in fact, it became almost a habit. a way of living and thinking, and there the greatest damage is done. So throughout the whole time that I was feeling these emotions, these negative emotions, I was making it a habit and a way of living, that every day I was living in sadness, and every day I was thinking in sadness, and every day it was becoming a greater damage to me than it was to anyone else. So then, obviously it was just hurting me more and more every day. And then I started to hurt other people because I felt that other people deserved to feel what I was feeling. And so I went through a lot of choices that, like, I look back and I'm like, man, I could have chose to let go earlier, but I didn't, because I held on to so much hope and the illusions and stuff, because I wasn't honest with myself, which leads to like the last podcast, right, of just being honest with yourself. But anyways, so I made the choice to not let go, and it really affected me for years because I just couldn't. I thought that was the only way, and it wasn't until people kept telling me, and you're like, dude, it's your choice. You're choosing to be mad. You're choosing to be sad. You're choosing to do this and that. And I was just like, man, like, what can I do? And so I just realized that I was just hurting myself. And I was just, how we all get to this point, or probably hope not, that you start hurting yourself so much that it just becomes exhausting and super frustrated, and you're just tired of everything around you in life. And so I was choosing, and I lived like that for a long time. And so obviously I'm doing better. I've gone over that. I've let go. But sometimes it still haunts me, like things come back, and then I get like triggers, and then I'm like, oh no, I'm getting sad again. And so this week, I've been trying my best. Well, because I've changed a ton, but sometimes again, like, it's hard for me to let go and to, but then it's you choosing not to let go, and you're choosing not to be happy. And so what I've done recently is, I've been, I still have that, not problem, but it's just hard. And so then that's why I've been starting to read like books, about like living intentionally and learning how to like reframe your thoughts in your mind. And that's why I'm doing this podcast episode, because then I've been learning to choose differently. So then I don't have to think how I've been thinking for the last 2 years, And so sorry, it's because I'm reading kind of what I'm supposed to be saying. So then, okay, right here, what needs to be done? What could be done with these situations? So if you're listening and you feel sad, or you feel discouraged, or you're feeling, all these emotions of negative feelings, what can you do to not feel them, but how to navigate through those emotions the way I did? And obviously not everyone's different, and obviously if you do need the serious help, find help to help you with what you're going through. But with certain small things like how I've been feeling, hopefully these tips can help you. And they're just the things that I've done, not necessarily mean that that it could work for you, but I mean, it's worked for me. And so, yeah. So one thing that I've been doing to actually kind of help reset my mindset is affirmations. And if you ever do, or if you ever, I've actually, one of my friends was like, hey, why don't you try to do like affirmations to yourself, like in the mirror. And I don't like doing that because sometimes it's hard for me to look myself in the mirror and say like, yeah, I'm feeling this way, And so I tried that. I've been trying that actually lately, I've been doing that since I came back from Mexico and everything. And so I've been looking myself in the mirror every day and telling myself, like, you choose to be happy. Like, I am happy. Like, literally verbally telling yourself, like, I am happy, but also be like, you choose to be happy. So sometimes when I have these moments when I'm, like, really sad, or, like, sadness comes over me, and I know that I'm, like, I can totally control it, I start to say, like, you choose to be happy, you choose to be happy, you choose to be happy. And then as I say that, and I look at myself in the mirror, and I start smiling and see, like, yeah, I am happy, and I am choosing to be happy. It starts changing the effect that it has on me throughout the day. And so I've been doing that recently, and it's been helping me a ton to just be choosing how I want to feel in regards to any situation that's happening to me. And also taking things more seriously in my life. I mean, I'm a very serious person, but taking things more seriously, like the small business that I'm doing, I'm choosing to be more committed to it, because then I have to believe in myself. And we talked about believing in ourselves in the other podcast that I talked about, and just learning to choose certain emotions and then actually acting upon them. So then you're experiencing happiness as you're choosing to be happy, and then you're doing things to be happy. And it's been working. I mean, I'm not saying that I'm always happy and I'm 100% like, yeah, I love life, But there's moments I'm like, oh, freak, like, I'm getting frustrated again. And actually, this morning, I didn't want to work out. And I was like laying on my bed, and I was like, no, I don't want to go on a run, which I actually didn't, but I did something else. I did like a warm up, and then I worked out. But as I was laying on my bed, and then I thought, I'm like, no, you've literally chose last week that you're gonna be committed to working out every day, so then it can help your body, and you can kind of release all the feelings that you're feeling through workout. And so that's what I did. I woke up and I was like, yes, I'm choosing to work out today. And then from there, I was able to do all the other things that I had planned throughout the day, including recording this. And so it's been super awesome to see how now adding new things to my head than I regularly do. Because usually, like, for example, when I get sad, I watch sad movies, I listen to sad music to kind of like grow the sadness that I have inside of me. And I've been not doing that. And I realized there's a huge difference. And probably you're like, yeah, you probably should have done that in the first place. And I know that. But I do it because I was choosing to continue to be sad. But, so yeah. Throughout this whole month, like just creating the podcast and continue with my social media stuff, I've been just choosing certain things so that I can change, because I know I can choose to change, and I want to change. I don't want to be the same person. I don't want to be the same person that has a lack of communication when in relationships, and struggles with certain triggers and trauma in the past. Like, I don't want that to affect me anymore. So I'm choosing to change. I'm choosing to be happy. I'm choosing to be committed, and I'm choosing to be more honest with people about how I feel, so then I can take away that like past things that I've been doing, like causing a cycle, and just learning to be a new me. And that's what this whole podcast is about. It's your choice. Like, you get to choose how you feel every day, so then you get to choose who you want to be. You can't blame your experiences or your trauma or whatever for the reason why you're unhappy and why you feel unsuccessful, Of course, we'll have discouragement, like we'll have troubles and we'll be very discouraged, but we don't have to feel that way all the time. And so I've been doing that lately, and I feel a lot happier, and I feel a lot more successful with myself. And not every day is a sunny day, but when it is, I smile. And so I've been doing that a lot lately, and I feel really good about it. I feel really positive. And when I do feel discouraged, I kind of switch the habit. So when I do feel a certain emotion, and I know that usually my go-to is like, oh, go watch a show, or go eat your comfort food. I'm trying to change that. So then when I do feel that, I change the habit, because the cue's never going to change, but the habit can. And then I can feel better with the reward I get, right? And so, it's definitely not easy, but it's worth it. And I've been feeling a lot more happier these days, especially through all the chaos that's going throughout the world, and especially in my life, feeling unorganized and a lot of things that I wish that I could have. But then I'm like, no, I do. I'm very grateful, and I do have it. So I can be happy about what I have, And so, going with another experience that I recently had, not recently, but like I've had, is, so sometimes I forget. No, sometimes what happens to me is like I want affirmations from people, like I want people to tell me certain things, so then my head and my heart can connect to like, okay, I need to move on, or okay, I need this and that. So I don't know about you, but with me, when like I guess in regards to like a break or whatever, I need the person to tell me, like, I used to need to have someone tell me like they didn't love me anymore, or like they don't want to be with me, like verbally say it, so that my mind and my heart can like move on. And I thought I needed that because I think I do, but then I don't, because you, again, in the end of the day, you get to choose how you feel. And so I was having this experience with someone, and they told me, I wrote it down because I forgot. And then so they told me, Jolette, you don't need an affirmation. You don't need it. You don't need it from me. You don't need it from anyone. You think you need it because you choose not to move on. You choose to not confront what you need to feel and what you need to do. So you justify it by saying, like, you want someone to say it to you, so then you can be like, oh, okay, like, yeah, I'll do it. And I remember when that person told me that, I was so angry inside, because I was like, how dare you think that I need your affirmation? And then I thought, wait, I do, because that's why I'm asking for it. Because I told them, like, I told them, like, I need to hear this from you. And they were like, no, you don't need to. You just need to do what you need to do and move on and let go and be happy, because that's what I'm doing. So you need to do it too. And I remember just like sitting there like really frustrated and listening to them, and I was like, man, like, why is it true? Like, why do I always need someone to tell me like certain things, so then my head and my mind, like my mind and my heart click? And I'm just like, and so obviously they didn't give me the affirmation that I needed. So then that was the moment that I needed to choose to honestly like let go. Because sometimes we wait for someone to say something, we wait for someone to do something, and then we hope that will give us like the automatic like click, like, oh, I don't need them, or oh yeah, like I can do better, or yeah, I can move on. And it's not like that. Like, sometimes I think we want closure, but do we need it? Maybe not. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But it's our choice to really to not feel sad and not to, we're choosing not to let go. And so that experience is like really stuck in my head, very vividly clear, because now when I think that when I need to make a choice, or when I need to choose, now that memory is super stuck in my head, and I'm able to be different and make a choice. And so I think all the experiences that we do have, they happen for a reason, and they allow us to grow, and they allow us to develop. And all the experiences that I've had that I didn't choose, I'm really glad that I didn't, because now when I look back, I can be like, hey, I didn't choose, but now I can, and I can be different, and I can choose different, and I can think different. And that's what motivates me every day now when I'm writing my goals, and I'm doing everything that I can to improve as a human being, especially in my mid-20s. And so yes, that's the lesson that I learned. That's the lesson that I really hope that you can get from this podcast, is that you have the ability to choose how you feel every day. You have the ability to choose to do what you want, how to feel what you want, to be where you want. And it's just your choice. So what are you going to choose? The experiences or the troubles that you're feeling or you're experiencing right now, what are you going to do about it, and what are you going to choose? So choose wisely, because if you don't, as that quote that I read earlier, stating that your choice will become habits, and then it will become the way you're living and thinking, and there can be great damage that can be done within you. At the end of the day, every choice that you make, whether you have someone to support you or not, is going to affect you. And so why not choose to be happy? Why not choose to be committed? And why not choose to move on, to let go, to grow, so then you can feel the rewards of growing each day and being happy. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to choose to be happy every day, and I'm going to choose to make things happen and not wait for affirmations from people, because I don't need them and you don't need them. And what you need is to make a choice. So that is the cup of Joe for today. Make sure that every day you are making choices, because you can. So be grateful that you can make choices. Be grateful that you can make a choice every day to make a difference, to make yourself different. And yes, it is your choice. So choose wisely. So, thank you so much for listening to the 5th episode of my podcast. I'm so grateful to be able to speak about what I feel and how I feel about it, and just share it with you guys, and hopefully inspire you guys to make better choices, to feel happier about yourself, to feel happier about your situations, and just know that you guys are worth it and you guys are great. So keep going, keep striving, and remember that you get to choose every day, and don't be sad, because I know how it feels to be sad for a very long time and thinking that you didn't have the choice, but you actually did. So don't put yourself in positions to feel sad. I mean, it's okay to feel emotion, but don't linger on it, Don't linger on with all these past memories and stuff, Just move on, let go. And I'm learning to let go and move on too. It's not like it's easy for me. It's not easy, but it's worth it, and I'm going to take it day by day. So every day, write your goals down, choose what you want to choose, and make sure, again, that troubles don't, even if you have a troubling situation, doesn't mean that you have to be discouraged. So when trials or tribulations, or when things don't go your way, you get to choose how you react. So react well. And if, I keep saying like this is the end, and then I keep talking. But yes, I'm super grateful again for everything and to continue to talk. But that is how we're going to end this podcast. Just, it's your time to choose. And so make a choice, be committed to that choice, and see how you'll grow. So yeah, I will choose to be happy, and I will choose to be better, and I will choose to be to change, and I choose to give other people opportunities, and I'm going to choose something each day to make myself feel happier, loved, and more, to grow. So that is all for this week. Thank you so much for listening. If you're new, welcome, and I hope to see you next week. Make sure to my podcast is on Spotify and YouTube. If you're looking at me right now, it's because you're watching on YouTube, and if you're listening to me, then it's because you're watching it, listening to it through your podcast. Make sure to share it with people that you think this could really help. I'm just here to just talk about what me thinks about, and I just want to share it to the world. So we will see you next week. Les amo muchísimo, and little kiss, and goodbye. We'll see you next week. This is the end of an episode of A Cup of Joe.